As we were going home, one of the children was saying that they wanted to show another child something on YouTube. And I am very much the type of person that just wants to see how things play out, because I don't know if you've heard of a training needs analysis before, but like we have certain ideas as adults what their training needs are, or educational needs, should I say. And a lot of it is to factor in, like, how do you, it's not always about obviously the individual, the worker. A lot of the times it's about in the interest of the organization, what the laws are and what the task skills are required. But all in all, you really want to be able to analyze your student or your worker and figure out what their actual needs are. So in doing that, sometimes the supervisor needs to just, like observe, and also have some sort of indicators to go by, and then see whether that employees were making or meeting those needs or not, or whether they actually need to be trained on. A lot of it is actually trying to understand where the children are at. So it's not just like giving them unnecessary training. It needs to be quite fluid and adaptable. So I allowed them to do that for a few minutes and very quickly observed that they then went, oh, I don't want to do any studies today. Can we just not do any studies today? And I have a very basic rule. It's just 1 hour after school studying. That's it. Everything outside of it, you do what you want. Well, not really, but it's always supervised activities. So I was observing, and then one of the children was like, okay, can we watch while we eat? And once again, like, how many of us adults do that? And we can't blame our children because they look at us as role models. So if they see that that's what we do, you can't tell your child no. Okay, so it all starts with us as the adult, as the leader, as the supervisor, to do the right thing. How much respect do you lose when you see your supervisor doing the wrong thing? Can't follow them, right? So children are even worse. They see us as their heroes. Okay, so that's what you are to them. So when they see you do something, they believe that that's absolutely okay to do that as well. So whether you think you're teaching or not, intentionally, you are always teaching. Look, I'm guilty of that too. So I'm not saying that I'm above it all. But so quickly I observed that, and then so I pretty much went, okay, many of you may have heard this. I think it was by a lecturer where they talked about, trying to fill a jar up with sand first, and then to see whether you can actually then fill it with pebbles and then rocks and so forth. So it doesn't work, obviously, right? So you still have a lot of pebbles, like the medium-sized pebbles and the big rocks, still outside the jar, right? So then when you reverse things and you put your big rocks in first, which are the important things, family, your health, eating right, exercise, all those other things that basically you can't live without, right? Those are the important things. And I try to explain to the children, like, most of the time when people are on their deathbed, they will always, talk about, like, they wish they had spent more time doing this, or they had treated someone better, or with kindness, etc., etc. So a lot of the times it's to do with family regrets. Now, we don't want our children to get to that stage. We want to train them while they're young to understand what is important. And then, your medium-sized pebbles is like, yeah, they're really important things, but not as important as, like, for example, it could be studying. I know that doesn't sound like that should be a big thing, but it's more like, look, there are a lot of successful people out there that, aren't geniuses, but they have grit. So maybe that's a bit more important. So it could be like, your teachers, your friends, certain toys that you really love, you think you can't live without. And then the small sands, as we know, your TV, like, what I don't remember most of the things that I watch. So, but when I'm learning something or I'm overcoming challenges, I definitely remember those. If I meet someone who is kind or I'm kind back to them, yes, I do remember those things. So, you've got to get the children to really understand what is really small. And it's very difficult for the children to grasp these concepts. So that's why I would remind the parents as well, like you need to reinforce these ideas in your children's mind. So what happened this morning, as an example only, Edric, I went for my morning meditation run. Those are my big rocks because my mind is so important, and just being in that right type of mind frame to start my day is really important to me. That's my health, mental health, as well as physical health. But for Edric, he sort of woke up, and then when I came back, he hadn't had breakfast. He hadn't basically done anything. And it was very easy for me to, get my buttons pressed. You know what I'm talking about. But see, children don't have a very good sense of time or time management. And so, I would remind him and say, so all the things that you were doing were they big rocks, medium pebbles, or were they tiny sands? And, of course it's tiny sands because it contributed to absolutely nothing. So that's us parents reinforcing the learning, reinforcing the teaching, because children don't just learn once and understand, especially difficult concepts. And then I reminded him, I said, the things like playing games as an example, or watching TV, etc., all of those things, that you can fit them in. But if you utilize all your time to do that stuff first, you don't have any time to look after yourself, such as, taking your vitamins or reading, or having a good breakfast, or just settling your mind so that you can start your day right, and so forth. I think with the next time, if I do this activity, I think it was very like on the fly, because of that whole watching thing. Next time, if I was to do this, or parents, if you want to do it at home, is to actually get the jar out and make sure that you have the rocks and the sand and the pebbles that can actually fill up a whole jar, so that you can demonstrate to them that you can fit everything you want into your life, but the best thing to do is actually your most important stuff first, and then your medium stuff, and then the small sand. Then you can actually see it all come together.